7 o'clock, okay, good. I'm pretty sure what's 7:30. I guess we'll call the meeting to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence.
All together.
Okay, let's get rolling here. We have to do a roll call. We do not have a Borough Secretary here. Oh, Mike, do we have to?
I'll do it. So why don't we, I think
We
first
have
on our
to
business would be to appoint Mr. O'Rourke as the temporary Borough Secretary.
I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. O'Rourke as temporary Borough Secretary.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Great.
Mr. Brundage, Mrs. Camara, Mr. Meuser, Mrs. Van Auken,
Here.
Vice President Williams,
Here.
President Lesher.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay. All right, guys. I guess we'll go to public comment on the agenda items only. Anybody like to speak on the agenda items only?
Good, go.
Thanks. We didn't really get a chance to read the agenda. Sorry. I didn't get a chance to read it. I want to thank the press for taking the time and the effort to do their job. But I will tell you, my husband did not resign.
Okay. Anybody else?
My name is April Reid. I'm one of Fred's tenants. I received.
Excuse me. Agenda items only.
Excuse me, Fred. I have a voice, and I have a right to be heard.
Okay, ma'am, we will take public comment on non-agenda items at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
The public comments right now are for the matters that are on the agenda.
Hello,
And
everybody.
any resident may speak at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Public comment.
Okay.
I don't want you to tell.
Okay. We're going to move on. Anybody else, Mr. Clark? On agenda items only. Okay.
Can we share? Last one.
Not right now.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on. We need to approve the accounts payable. Has anybody got any questions on the accounts payable?
You have to make the motion.
Okay, we need to make a motion to pay the accounts payable.
Okay.
Did Ms. Williams make a motion?
Okay, I didn't recognize. Okay, motion's been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes. There's just a few questions that I have
Go
on the
ahead, Pat.
accounts bill that I spoke to John about, and also Mr. O'Rourke with a few items, and he had no problem with the discrepancies. So on that, yes.
Okay, so you got everything straightened out with Mr. McLean and all on them items? I remember you went over them with it. Okay, any motion to approve the accounts payable?
We just did that.
Okay, all right, yeah, right, vote.
I seconded it.
Yeah, I discussed it.
So if there's no more discussion.
No more discussion. Yeah.
Mrs.
All in
Camara?
favor? Go ahead.
Yes.
Mr. Meuser, Mrs. Van Auken,
Yes.
Vice President Williams,
Yes.
President Lesher.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay. We're going to move to the next item, which is the solicitor's report. Do you have anything to tell the guys here, Mr. McLean?
I do, Mr. President. Just go through. I know council's aware, but I just want to remind you, we do need a treasurer for the borough.
Yeah.
So we I strongly urge you to consider.
I'd like to have something by next month.
Okay. We also, in December, we would move for our final budget. So I know that Mr. O'Rourke's been working on it, so the budget preparation has begun. It is being prepared. So we've done our job under the Borough Code, and that more than 30 days prior to the final adoption, the budget has begun to be prepared. We will advertise the availability of the budget. We must do that at least 10 days prior to its final adoption. I'm going to assume at this point, unless council tells me otherwise, that the target date would be to adopt the final budget at the December council meeting. Realizing that if for whatever reason the budget is still in formation and you know, is still being prepared, we can schedule a special meeting for later in December, but I'm just suggesting that absent some other special date that we come up with, that for advertising purposes, we want to make sure it gets advertised at least 10 days, the availability of the budget for the public to review at least 10 days prior to the final adoption date, which would be your regular December meeting. Again, that doesn't mean you have to adopt it on that date. If there's still questions or it's information, you can go later in the month. You have to adopt it by December 31st. In accordance with that also, once you adopt the budget, you're obligated to adopt the tax levy ordinance. The tax ordinance has to be advertised at least 7 days prior to its adoption. So we can advertise that we will have a tax levy ordinance to adopt. I'll work with Mr. O'Rourke to fill in whatever the numbers are. Once again, even if it's advertised, you can always amend it to change as the budget goes through the formation process. But we do want to make sure those things are advertised and we're ready to go for the regular December council meeting. Once again, if it's not done by that date, that's okay. We can have a meeting later in the month, but I'm going to plan on advertising so that it's available and ready for you at the regular December meeting.
So, asking for a date? Because I would,
Yeah,
if
don't
that's
want you
what you want to
traveling.
do, if that's what you want to do, I would suggest that we do the first meeting on the 3rd, and then the second one on the 17th to vote on it. And if it doesn't, and then if we have a problem, we still have plenty of time before the 31st.
Yeah, is the 17th our regular council meeting?
No, the
No, I think somebody's going on a
And
trip
I'm gonna
or
be on a
something.
trip.
Okay, so we would,
So the 3rd is the Thursday before that. That would be normally our
workshop.
workshop, but if we could move that to be the actual meeting.
It's your pleasure.
We could do the work session on the 3rd and make the regular meeting on the 17th.
Yeah, that'll work. And just make sure we get enough folks here.
Is that gonna be okay?
Sure.
I mean, with all the dates that we've done, and enough time?
Yeah, plenty of time. I mean, I have to put the advertisement for the ordinance in by the 10th of December, no problem, and the advertisement of the availability of the budget 10 days prior to that, so by December 7th. So there's, you know, we can start to do that now. There's not a time problem.
Okay, so we'll have the meeting on the 3rd, that we can get it done, and then the paper by the 7th, and then for the 17th, that we're gonna do it in 10 days. And then if there's a problem with the 17th, we still have enough time, so we can get this passed before the 31st.
That's right. If it's not completed, we can always continue the meeting in order to consider it. We did that last year. We had it, I think, December 30th. So, all right, so those are important budget items. Just to remind everybody, and I apologize, Mr. O'Rourke, we'll talk about later, the Act 47 timeline. Now that the plan, the recovery plan was presented on October the 19th, the public hearing was conducted last week by the Act 47 recovery team. You are obligated to take action by November the 30th. I think in speaking to President Lesher, it sounds like what we've considered all along is that we would conduct a special meeting on November the 30th. You are obligated to, if you're going to adopt a plan, to do it by ordinance, which would mean that I would need to advertise that a week in advance, so that's, you know.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
When we had the public meeting, any feelings that people had of things that would need to be changed or tweaked? When's that gonna come back to us?
10
so we can
days
look at it?
from the meeting.
On Monday.
13.
Monday.
10 days from the
The
meeting.
16th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that comes back to the 16th, so then we have it from the 16th to the 30th?
To review the plan as with any revisions.
Okay.
And we already know that there are two very substantive revisions, or a substantive revision in that, based upon what was presented the night of the hearing, the recovery plan is now recommending that for our two largest liabilities, the Darden Creek Joint Authority and the Police Pension Fund contributions, that there be a loan now. The financial assistance from the Commonwealth in the form of a loan. That was not in the original plan.
I thought that was.
No, it wasn't, Martha. Believe it it
I
was.
thought that when he sat and gave the press release, I thought he was talking
Yeah, he
about
did,
that.
but the original plan didn't have it in it. Had no cash, the original plan.
So,
So hopefully we move on a little bit and we get a little something for Kyle Wynn.
Okay, so then we'll get it on the 16th, so there's no more public hearing after that, it's just council at that
that's
point.
correct. So unless council instructs me otherwise, what I would do is advertise the ordinance, which I would need to submit by November the 19th, I think is a Friday.
No, it's November 19th is Thursday.
Thursday, or send it in by, to get it in the paper. Deadline would be the Monday, it would have to be in the paper by Monday, so I need to get it in there by Friday, Thursday or Friday, to advertise it. And again, that doesn't mean that you have to adopt it, it's up to council, but we do need to be ready to go, for November 30th, so that in the event that council votes in favor of the ordinance, that would adopt the plan. If you're opposed to the recovery plan, you vote against the ordinance. And if you do not vote in favor of the ordinance and do not adopt the recovery plan, then the obligation is that within 14 days after that, so by December the 14th, council would have to develop its own plan, its own recovery plan. Again, that would have to be done within 14 days, and then council must conduct a public meeting within 10 days after that. So now we're talking by December the 24th. You would need to conduct a public hearing on your alternate recovery plan. And then you would need to act on that within 8 days, which would be January 1st of 2016, in order to vote on an ordinance adopting your recovery plan. So if you, and at that point, if we get to that point, your recovery plan would be submitted to the Secretary of the Department of Community and Economic Development. And the Secretary could either agree with your plan, or if the Secretary disagreed with your plan, he could initiate proceedings in order to have a receiver appointed. In that he would have to file a petition in Commonwealth Court, which is a Harrisburg court, it's not a Delaware County Court of Common Pleas. So that is your timeline. So like I said, what I would do is I will advertise, unless council directs me differently, advertise a summary of the ordinance that is being requested to be adopted by the recovery team, just so that we have it advertised and you have something to consider on November the 30th. And then council take whatever action it wants to on the 30th, and then we'll deal with it, as I said, otherwise if the recovery plan is not adopted. If it is adopted, you have, you adopted the recovery plan on the 30th. There's two components to it, the recovery plan itself, but also, as you know, the recovery plan is recommended, as I've called it, the strong manager model. And there is an ordinance that would replace your current borough manager ordinance, which is short and sweet in terms of, the borough manager is the chief operating officer. This is a very much more detailed ordinance about the duties and responsibilities of the manager. And the recovery team is saying, we want you to adopt that at the same time that you do it. I know there's strong feelings among some people about whether or not that should be the model of governance, but those are the two things that they want you to do. So that's your timeline, that's the interim. The only other thing I have to report on it is that there was a comment period, written comments. I did hear from some people generally. I heard more from President Lesher with more specifics. So I think President Lesher distributed a letter the night of the hearing. You know, and I had comments in 4 specific areas. First was stating President Lesher's strong objections to the strong borough manager model of governance. Second was there's a provision in the recovery plan where it recommends that council not take their stipends. And my recommendation or thought to the recovery team was that I thought that was a bit punitive in that you'll have people that are here and, you know, they may not agree with the way somebody governed the borough in the past, or they may say, we don't think you did a good job, but that doesn't mean that the person shouldn't get a stipend, especially as you talk about new council members and people that have been elected coming on. So that was in there. I don't know, I haven't heard and gotten any feedback about whether they would consider revising the plan to remove that recommendation, but that was something that I put in there. And then the last 2 items were both related to the recommendation to provide financial assistance in the form of a loan for the Darby Creek Joint Authority liability and the police pension contribution liability that we have. You know, that if we did that, you know, instead of paying those things off over time, we would certainly pay into them. That would eliminate the problem or any liability with the Darby Creek Joint Authority. As we've talked in general terms regarding the settlement, but we have not been able to come to something specific because of certain terms and conditions that Darby Creek Joint Authority wanted in case there's a bad payment or late payment in the future. I thought that there were terms that were not acceptable, in my opinion, to the borough. The police pension, again, for any time you're behind, you have to pay into that, not only the police pension contribution, but also 7.25% interest, which is what our plan estimates the plan should be making in investment returns during the year. So that, even though we're paying that to ourselves in our pension plan, it still affects the operation of the borough because we're paying that from the general fund to the police pension fund. So if we took out that liability, you wouldn't have that interest payment, and you would be able to devote that to the general operations of the boroughs, your parks, your sewers, your trash pickup, you know, what have you. So that they did consider that and incorporate those recommendations into the plan at the time of the hearing. So that was good news. So that was the summary of what I had submitted in terms of comments.
Okay, I have one other